If you're still getting issues on your rotary encoder, then here are a few things that you might be able to troubleshoot. Now, if you're getting some problems, I'd recommend clicking Extras, Settings, select Logging Enabled, and make sure this log level is Debug. Click OK. And that's how you get this window down here, and that'll show you whether or not your inputs are going through. If one of the problems is that your rotary encoder is turning the wrong way when you turn it left and it inputs right, your MobiFlight modules is probably set the wrong pin. Switch the pins around. So select a different pin, select this to that pin, and reselect this to the left pin. Upload config and update firmware, and that should fix it. If your encoder is only working one way, go to MobiFlight modules and make sure your pin is set correctly, and make sure your wires are going to the right place. Click Upload config and update firmware. If you'd like to get your rotary encoder button working but don't know how, select MobiFlight modules and add device and add a button. Your rotary encoder button is just like any other button. So add a button, assign the pin, upload config, upload firmware. If your rotary encoder is skipping the first input, so if you turn your rotary encoder left, it skips the first input, then all the other inputs are going through, and then you start turning it right, it skips the first input and the others are going through. This is what you can do. First, go into MobiFlight modules, expand this, select your encoder, select type. You're probably on 1 detent per cycle. Select 2 detents per cycle, or if you're on 2 detents, try 4 detents. Click Upload config and update firmware. Click OK. Then create a new input entry, edit it, select your encoder, and over here on action type, select MobiFlight variable, name it the entry name, and type in this, parentheses, $+1, parentheses, %2. Copy that, paste that on every single input setting tab. Click OK. Then create a new input entry, edit that, and that will be your simulator variable. Select your input device again, select your simulator, and find your variable that you'd like to change. Select that for each tab, then select precondition, select none. Where it says use type, select MobiFlight variable. Over here, select your encoder variable, then select greater than or equals to 1. So if you'd like a quick explanation of what's happening, when you set your MobiFlight modules to 2 cycles for the rotary encoder, your rotary encoder is registering more inputs as it's splitting each input into 2 separate inputs. For whatever reason, MobiFlight registers the first input on these other modes, so we have to work with it. Then what this entry does is change a variable between 1 and 0 so that each subdivided input can be individually captured. This allows us to repackage the 2 inputs into one input by detecting every time the variable hits 1.